Sybil and her sister Kara share their bedroom. During a bout of sibling rivalry, they decide they are going to split the bedroom into two parts by installing a room divider along the diagonal of the room, creating two triangular spaces. The divider is 16 feet long, and the room is 2 feet longer than it is wide. Find the exact dimensions of Sybil and Kara's bedroom. Approximate these dimensions to the nearest tenth of a foot. Here's a diagram of their bedroom. The length is 2 longer than the width here, and the diagonal is 16 feet. We can use Pythagorean theorem since this is a right triangle, creating an equation using this x and then squaring it, plus this x squared and then squaring it, squaring the legs, and then you add them together, and that equals the hypotenuse of 16 squared. If we simplify this, x squared is x squared, plus squaring that, we end up with x squared plus 4x plus 4. Remember, you have to FOIL that out and you have a middle term. 16 squared is 256. Now if I go ahead and combine these two, I get 2x squared plus 4x plus 4 equals 256. If we subtract 256 from both sides, we get 2x squared plus 4x, and then subtracting 256 there, I get a negative 252. And subtracting 256 there, I get 0. Now I notice that 2 goes into everything. So let's divide everything by 2. If I divide everything by 2, that will give us an x squared plus 2x, and then 252 divided by 2 will equal a negative 126. And 0 divided by 2 is 0. Now we can use quadratic formula to solve this. A will equal 1, B will equal 2, C will equal a negative 126. Remember, our quadratic formula is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. That's what our x will equal. So if we substitute in 2 for our b, we'll get the opposite of 2, which is negative 2, plus or minus the square root of 2 squared, minus 4 times our a was 1, and our c was a negative 126. That's all over 2 times our a, which is 1. Now we can start simplifying inside our square root. So 2 squared is 4, and negative 4 times 1 times negative 126 is 504. And we're going to square root that, plus or minus in the front, with a negative 2 all over 2 will equal our 4. Now we continue simplifying, and that ends up being square root of 508 plus or minus our negative 2 all over 2. And then we need to simplify our 508. And our 508 can simplify into 4 times 127. So square root of 4 is 2, so we have 2 square root of 127. And then plus or minus negative 2 over 2. That's what x equals. And then notice 2 will go into both these, so we have negative 1 plus or minus square root of 127 is what x would be. Now we can't have a negative length for this. So that means that if I were to take negative 1 minus that, it would be negative. So the only answer that will make sense is negative 1 plus square root of 127. So that's what x would be for this particular problem. And x plus 2, which is the other dimension of the bedroom, is going to be 2 larger than that. If I add 2 to this, I'm actually going to add it to the -1, which will be a +1 plus square root of 127. If you calculate this out in your calculator, the approximate value for this is going to be 10.3. And our units are feet, so we need to add units of feet onto our dimensions to make sure that we know what our dimensions are. And the approximate value for this, which this is going to all be feet out here also, is going to be approximately 12.3 feet. So the dimensions of the room are going to be -1 plus square root of 127 feet by +1 plus 127 square root of 127 feet, which is approximately 10.3 feet by 12.3 feet.